The Hope diamond was allegedly stolen from a temple in India from the forehead of a statue of the goddess Sita. The priest who stole it was tortured to death, but in 1642 Jean-Baptiste Tavernier bought the diamond and sold it to Louis XIV before being torn apart by wild dogs later in life. Louis XIV would allow his mistress Marquise de Montespan to wear it, who was later publicly disgraced, similar to Nicolas Fouquet, the guardian of the crown jewels, who would wear the diamond on special occasions. He was later imprisoned and executed in 1680, while Louis XIV himself died in agony of gangrene, his empire in ruins. The diamond was passed down to Louis XVI and worn by his wife Marie Antoinette. Princess de Lamballe, member of the court, had worn the diamond too, but she was torn to pieces by a mob shortly before Louis and Mary were beheaded by guillotine in the French Revolution. In 1791, the jewel was taken from the royal couple and placed in storage, where it was stolen and fell into the hands of Dutch diamond cutter Wilhelm Fowles, whose son Hendrik then robbed the diamond from him. Wilhelm was ruined and died of grief. Hendrik committed suicide in 1830 after using the diamond to pay off his debt to Francis Below, who travelled to London to sell it, but he fell terribly ill from jail fever and died in a poor lodging house before he could sell the diamond to Daniel Eliasson, who arrived to find him dead and took possession of the diamond. In 1824, Daniel killed himself and George IV bought it. After his death in 1830, it was purchased by banker Philip Hope, who died in 1839, and it was inherited by nephew Henry Thomas Hope, whose only son died, therefore the stone passed to his grandson Henry Francis Hope. He inherited the diamond but suffered scandal, a collapsed marriage and financial ruin, leaving his wife to die in poverty. Henry Francis Hope sold the diamond in 1901 to Adolf Veal, who immediately fell into financial trouble, so sold it to Simon Frankel, who immediately fell into financial troubles, and sold it in 1908 to Jacques Collot, who later went mad and committed suicide after selling it to Russian Prince Ivan Kalatovsky, who would lend it to his mistress, Mademoiselle Lorenz Ledieu. She was wearing it when Ivan shot her with a revolver. 2 days later, he was battered to death by revolutionaries. The diamond was transferred to a French dealer who fell downstairs and broke his leg before selling it to a Greek jeweller, Simon Moncherids, who was captured by thieves, thrown off a cliff and killed along with his wife and 2 children after just selling it to Abdul Hamid II. Hamid's concubine, Salma Zabaya, was wearing it when Jeva Agar, an official of the Sultan's treasury, killed her in an attempt to steal the gem. He was hung for his crime. Servant Abu Sabir, who was tasked to polish the stone, was later flogged, tortured and thrown in a dungeon suspected of working with Agar. Abdul Hamid was later overthrown and imprisoned, but not before Kulub Bey, a man tasked with guarding the stone, escaped. He was captured in the streets of Istanbul and strangled during the uprising. It next came into the possession of a merchant called Selim Habib, who left the diamond in Paris before perishing in a shipwreck off the French steamer in the Moluccas. Jeweller Pierre Cartier then held the diamond, which was sold in 1910 in London, where a French dealer bought it and sold it to Edward B. McLean in the US. He gave it to his wife Evelyn Walsh. They had a son called Vincent Walsh, who was killed by a passing motor car aged 9. Their daughter Evie had a drug overdose aged 25. Evelyn's husband left her and she became an alcoholic, deemed insane and confined to a mental institution until her death in 1947. In 1949, it was bought by Harry Winston and passed into the collection of the Smithsonian Institution in 1968. James Todd was the mail worker who delivered it. He crushed his leg in a truck accident, injured his head in a car accident, and then lost his home in a fire. Harry Winston died in 1978 of old age. He did not believe in the curse.